everybody. Welcome to the Prospects. I'm Tariq, Spence filling in for Bill Pucko. Bringing in Kevin Oklobzija. Good to have you this week, my friend.
Great to be back.
Good to have
you.
It's
been a long time.
Well, Pat Duffy did advocate for you.
For good reason.
Of course.
No, I advocated for a longer time for him to be away. Yeah.
Must have misread that like some of the emails Jon Gruden said. At any rate, we'll start with Jon Gruden. Your thoughts, well, I'll start with you, Kevin. Your thoughts full well, Jon Gruden had to resign as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders from emails from about 10 years ago. But this actually started with an investigation into the Washington Football Club and then was spilled out to the news.
People are saying, geez, it happened 10 years ago. Oh, my goodness. Do you think he changed?
No.
I don't either.
No. That's where we are and we stand. Now what do we look into? Because there's about 650,000 other emails just in this investigation alone with Washington.
So I do find it interesting. Like the initial investigation stems from a civil lawsuit from the Washington football team's cheerleaders towards the franchise, right? You've been looking at these emails. You cleared Daniel Snyder essentially, suspended him for a year, said it wasn't his fault, it was other people in the franchise. But this is the big bombshell to come out of all this stuff, right? Like, you cannot tell me that the most interesting, pertinent information of the way the NFL is run right now when it comes to whatever you want to talk about, economics, social stuff, race, what's going on with these, this is it? No, there's no way. There's more stuff in there. And why? Now, look. What I'm about to say something, I don't want it to be misconstrued. What was found out in those emails from Gruden, what had to happen, happened. You got no choice but to move him, and I mean, look, we're all better knowing what happened here.
It's hard to believe it's the only
That's
one.
what I'm saying. Yes. And what about Gruden led to his things being leaked before everything else that's coming out here, right? Like 650,000 emails, and 15 of them have Jon Gruden saying horrific stuff on them, and that's what we're going to find out about?
Let's assume a lot of those people have moved on, though. Not all. I mean, I'm sure there are still a lot that are still in the league, but I don't know, why did he come out first? I don't know. Is he the biggest name? I don't know.
Still employed by the NFL. I think that's the other thing. I think you raised a really good point. Where whomever sent emails are is going to determine whether or not the NFL will act on it. So say, for example, it's a coach that, say, works for ESPN or Fox or someplace else. Will they have to handle that hot potato as opposed to Gruden, who's working for ESPN at the time, but now back in the NFL, and now we know these emails?
Well, but Kevin, you're a so-called journalist. So there was another email that was released earlier this week. Adam Schefter of ESPN sent an entire article to Bruce Allen at Washington asking him to edit anything that he wanted out based on sources that he used. And people are like, well, what is Adam Schefter doing carrying water for the Washington football team? Why is Schefter's email being released with all, like, there is something weird going on here. What is going on? What is going on?
I mean, it's odd that he would ask the team, well, what don't you like? I'll fix it. Granted, the television stations, networks, whatever, are partners. So, a lot of things do have to be clear as they're cleared. They're not independent journalists as opposed to, Sal Majorana covering the Bills or somebody at a radio station, whatever, who covers the team. So it's a little, and I'm talking a reporter for a team, not the team broadcast partner. Sure. So in that regard, I don't know. I just think that whole thing is weird. That you go ahead and edit that. Right. What don't you like?
Well, yeah. I don't know, but
maybe that's how he gets his scoops, though. He can get a hold of anybody he wants.
Fine, but it also gives a glimpse into why franchises are being able to be run with complete impunity, nobody looking into anything, nobody questioning anything, because when you have the biggest name in NFL investigative reporting, as far as fans know, giving articles to the guy who runs the team to edit, like, of course nothing's going to be discovered. Of course, 10 years later, you're going to come across all this stuff where you're like, holy cow, which again leads to my next question. What is in those emails, man?
I don't know. I think the investigation will go where it needs to go. And the most important thing about this, too, is that what's going to happen going forward? All the NFL has been doing for the last 2 years is let's stop racism, let's end hate. Here's Gruden basically saying I'm going to resign, doesn't get fired. But what if there is somebody else that does get exposed? Will they get fired or will they resign?
Are other leagues now looking into things like this?
No, I would think the other leagues are going the opposite way, right? If you look into it, now you're exposing yourself, and that's the problem here, right? With everything that's uncovered here, it's a step forward, right? Okay, it's like Aaron Rodgers put it earlier this week. Like, that stuff don't fly anymore, right? It's not going to fly in an NFL locker room. Guys are looking at you differently. But by exposing it, you're also, as a league, making yourselves look archaic, and why did you do anything in the first place? So there's a weird catch-22 to it. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah. That's why it's, the NHL is touting this fact that only 4 players have not been tested or have not been vaccinated. Mm-hmm. Pretty good accomplishment, but who knows what's hidden in their emails?
And not only that, hey, great, 4 players haven't been vaccinated. Can we talk about what happened in Chicago, right, 6 years ago?
Correct.
For God's sakes.
With a video coach.
Yeah.
So many stories yet to be told. We'll talk the Buffalo Bills story leading the NFL next. You're watching the Rochester Press Box.
Original Bay Goodman Pizza, located on the corner of North Winton at Browncroft. There are 3 ways to get the original Bay & Goodman delivery. Go to baygoodman.com.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box. I'm Tariq Spence filling in for Bill Pucko, and the Bill segment is being brought to you by Ralph Honda. For 3 generations, celebrating 50 years as New York's first and oldest Honda dealer. Visit Ralph Honda today and find out how we do Honda right. RalphHonda.com. All right, Duffy, what a statement. Sunday night prime time, another one on the way, but let's go back to the Bills' big win over Kansas City.
Oh, sorry, I just got to chill again because it was so wonderful. Could you guys believe it? Did you believe what you were seeing? All right, so we can talk about, I can sit here for 5 hours and talk about how great that game was, which, by the way, how long it took based on the weather delay at halftime. The thing that impressed me the most, Josh Allen's chunk plays are fantastic. The Bills' defense was great. Greg Rousseau, by the way.
Do you want your quarterback jumping? Do you want him leaping over guys like that?
In a situation where it's that necessary, yes.
And he obviously he could survey and see what was around that, there wasn't another guy coming. I don't want him getting hit midair.
No, listen, I'm with you, but he's done it twice, so he's probably good at it, right? But to that point, that's the drive where, to me, the Bills have become legitimate Super Bowl, if not favorites, top 3s. Here's why. That is an 8-minute drive in the 4th quarter against a team that can score points like that. Right? Josh Allen showed he was getting chunk plays all night long. In fact, that's all he was getting. He was getting up to 20 yards per completion before that drive was happening. They took 8 minutes, ran the ball, dink and dunk. Josh used his legs. They played smart football. They manipulated where they wanted the defense to be and came away with 7 points to put a dagger in the back of the Chiefs. Above anything I've seen over the last 3 years in the growth of Josh Allen, Brian Daboll, Sean McDermott together, that was a holy cow, we've arrived moment.
And they did
I have to agree with them.
And listen, I can't even argue with that.
No,
one.
nothing. Not
and
one
they
point.
did it on the road.
Yes.
They did it in Kansas City. Is this the best team?
By the way, is Kansas City really a difficult place to play in?
Not on Sunday night, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. The Browns almost had a beat. I don't know. I think the Chiefs have regressed.
Are these guys setting up
Or
their
others have
jokes
caught up.
again?
I'm not sure what it is, but they're not the dynasty they were.
Well, I'm gonna get to it.
We're building into.
At least not defensively. They're terrible defensively.
But I'm going to get to it when it comes to...
And I'm not taking anything away from that Bills win because they it didn't matter who the team was. They were, dominant that night.
I get what you're saying. I'll get to it more in unfinished business, but I mean, the Bills prepared their entire offseason for that game.
I hope not.
They prepared the entire offseason.
I think they prepared to beat that team.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
Right?
Okay,
but I mean, look, if you were ever going to beat the Chiefs, it was going to happen last Sunday night, right? Something is going on with that offense. I don't know if it's regression. I don't know if the rest of the league is caught up to what they're doing here. And it's another proof in a salary cap league that when you spend the money that a team like the Chiefs has spent on offense, you're going to be hurting other places. Their offensive tackles are a disaster. Their defense, man, what are you doing with that stuff?
By the way, if you look back to opening week, how did that happen?
I don't even know.
The Steelers are no good.
Well, the other thing
Their defense is, I guess, okay, but that's such an aberration now when you look at how the Bills have played.
Can you now look at Tennessee and be like, okay, I can see they're looking at the bye week the week after. Let's not falter here. Let's see if we can get this win, go into the bye week, and you've got 3 teams you can beat the week after that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, look, you get through Tennessee, you're on a nice little run, right? But Tennessee makes me a little bit nervous for this reason. It's a completely different monster than anything the Bills have seen all season long. Derrick Henry is on pace in the year 2021 to set the record for most carries by a player in a season. Think about that.
Now, are the Bills good enough to take him away?
Well, that's the question, right? So the defensive tackle, Star Lotulelei, Ed Oliver, have been playing fantastic, but they've been playing against teams that have been throwing the ball because they've been playing from behind. Now, the Steelers have a good running game, decent running game. They were able to shut that down opening day, but they were also playing a rookie running back in his first NFL game.
For the game for the Buffalo Bills and the Tennessee Titans, what are your predictions?
I mean, look, it's the Josh Allen revenge tour, right? Like, you went into Kansas City, you got your revenge, you waved bye-bye to the crowd on that dagger touchdown.
Well, that Monday night game against Tennessee, that's
Look, you remember what
That's
happened?
bad memories.
You remember what happened last year, though? They played that game a couple of days after they were supposed to in prime time because of the COVID situation that the NFL didn't take care of with Tennessee. They caught a lot of you-know-what the Bills did for losing that game because they weren't the contenders everyone thought. It's revenge time. The Bills win.
All right, so the Buffalo Bills, what do you think, Kevin? Going forward, are they going to let down after a big win last week?
No, I don't think. See, I just don't think Tennessee is that good. I really don't. I think I'm very impressed with the Bills. I probably would have been one of the naysayers to start the year that said, okay, well, let's find out. Hey, I'm sold.
I don't understand. I predicted the Buffalo Bills to go to the Super Bowl, and he was very anxious about it. And look at what
He doesn't like. He's all worried about.
Oh, well, you've been around sports your whole life. You know how this goes. You don't say it. You believe it. You don't say it.
Yeah, boy, the Steelers never said it when they were going every other year. You're winning every other year.
You're watching the press box coming up next, like it or not. All about NHL.
Here's the Press Box Trivia question brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
All of these things show Josh Allen has a strive for greatness inside of him.
Falcon Around with Carl Falk. New episodes every Tuesday on Rock Sports Now.
Here's the Press Box Trivia answer brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Are you facing criminal charges from a DWI and feel that you never imagined it could happen to you? Contact attorneys with years of experience as prosecutors and defenders. Contact Ganguly Brothers Law today for a free consultation. You can put your trust in us. Welcome back to the Press Box. This segment of the Press Box, like it or not, is being brought to you by Ganguly Brothers Law. Attorneys with years of experience defending the accused. Don't go unprepared. Contact Ganguly Brothers Law today. All right, let's start first with Kevin here. Nick Suzuki, brand new deal, 8 years, $63 million for the Montreal Canadiens. Like it or not?
Talk about capitalizing on a great playoff. I mean, he has been one of their better scorers, top scorer, whatever it may be. He has potential, but my goodness, that just seems like an overreaction to me. I don't know. He might be that good. Is he your elite player? Maybe. I mean, he's emerging, but I'm a little surprised they gave him that length of a deal. Maybe a shorter deal at that money, okay, but they believe in him. Yes. And I like to see that.
Right place, right time, right?
Yes.
You got the situation going on with Carey Price that we don't really know about, so you have that.
Well, he's aging. I mean, my gosh, he's been around for 15 years now?
True that, but he's not going to be around. Then you got the Shea Weber situation with the LTIR. Who knows if he
another
ever
guy who's been around forever.
But that's just it. You have to keep somebody from that team around for fans to be like, oh, check this out. And you know what the new money in the TV deal, 8 for $63 may not be an elite contract 3 years from now. Like, we may look back at this deal and go, oh, that's about on par for a guy who plays like he does.
Correct. So management, certainly, I'm not going to doubt what they're doing. They're pretty shrewd.
Speaking of management, the so-called experts say that the Sabres will finish in last place, like it or not.
I mean, they're not going to finish in last place.
He doesn't like the fact that they're going to, but
I don't know if he does or not. He might not. He might like it and get a pick. I don't know.
The Sabres had a hard time finishing in last place when they were trying to finish in last place.
See, that's how bad they were. They couldn't even figure that part out.
Look, I like Donnie Meatballs, Don Granato.
I do too.
I think that he's a guy who's really good at developing talent, which is what you didn't have. I don't see this as a tank. I see it as a legitimate rebuild for the Sabres, right? You have pieces in place. They're doing the right thing, Kevin, sending down the guys that need to be sent down to cook.
And that's the best thing they did.
Agreed.
So Jack Quinn coming here. Those are the things that had to happen and didn't happen before the last however many years.
Casey Middlestat went from an adorable little boy to a grown man this offseason.
And the problem with him was, in order to sign, he demanded that he start in the NHL, and he couldn't be sent to Rochester his rookie season. He was not good at all in the NHL, and it stunted his growth. And he's finally starting to show what he should have been and would have been had he played here, but he didn't want to, and now you live and learn.
He's 100% right. However, if the Sabres are going to finish in last place, the only thing that's going to do it to him is the goaltending. Because the goaltending, you got Dustin Tokarski, right, who was out of the league for a little while, wasn't playing in the NHL, manages to seal a big-time job behind Craig Anderson, who I think is 47 years old at this point. And by the way, I meant to make a joke. That's actually not that far off from how old he actually is at 42 years old.
If Tom Brady can play to 50, why can't Craig Anderson?
Because Craig Anderson hasn't been playing in the bigs for, okay.
He was an Emmerich for 06, 07. I'm not even sure how many people know that. He
Yeah,
was,
there for a while,
he was
wasn't
with Florida when they shared the affiliation and was on his way up.
There will be 4 teams worse than the Sabres this year. Ooh. You heard it here first.
Which ones?
4 teams worse than the Sabres. You're going to have Arizona.
Don't say the Kraken.
Kraken are going to be one of them. I mean, look, it's just how it is.
Yeah, I know.
And there are going to be 2 surprise teams yet to be named. Because, Kevin, you know every year there are 2 teams that you look as middle-of-the-pack teams that all of a sudden the wheels just fall off, Columbus being one
Or
of them.
go the other way. And that's very true. I mean, I don't think they necessarily. I wouldn't go to Del Lago and to DraftKings or whatever their sports book is and put a lot of money on the Sabres finishing 32nd. I really wouldn't. I would put no money on them making the playoffs, but I don't think they necessarily will be the worst team in the league.
Let's put it this way. The last 2 years, and the Sabres will hold this record forever, they're the only team in NHL history to come in 31st place.
Wow.
Last place, because there was only 31 teams. That's never going to be able to happen again, right?
They can come in 31st again.
Okay, well, I'm saying 31st and last place at the same time. Shut up, Kevin. You know what I mean.
You guys were going such a nice roll, too. You were getting along for a minute, started testing,
We made it
you
through
agreed
2
with each
segments.
other.
Do you know how hard it is for me to look at him and not yell at his face? Look at that face.
Unfinished business is on the way next. You're watching the Rochester Press Box. The Press Box Stat of the Week is being brought to you by McArdle's Restaurant in Fairport. McArdle's is open 7 days a week with dining available indoors and out, takeout and delivery. Come home to McArdle's.
And now to Eichel. He floated one.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box. Unfinished business is being brought to you by Greg the Roofer. Better roof, better price, better call Greg the Roofer. Save time and money on your roof, siding, and windows. Call today for a free estimate, and financing is available. GregTheRoofer.com.
There was a lot of people that said this offseason when the Bills were going into the draft, they didn't have any needs. And if you looked at it on a full team scale, you were absolutely right. They could pick whatever they wanted to, and they probably would have been okay. But Sunday night, it became apparent what the Bills were doing the entire offseason. I'm wearing my brand new Greg Rousseau jersey, defensive player of the week. Again, interception, 5 tackles and a sack against the Chiefs. First round pick. And he had 2 sacks against the Dolphins and had been relatively quiet up until that point. On Sunday night, it became very apparent why the Buffalo Bills drafted Greg Rousseau, because he had himself a night against defensive ends that couldn't handle him because of his length. Oh, and then another rookie draft pick, starting in his second game dressed. Boogie Basham had a sack in his first game last week, had another sack against the Chiefs. And then you look at the defensive backfield that a lot of Bills fans were questioning this offseason, and Levi Wallace and Teron Johnson and Saran Neal. They dominated that Chiefs team. Go back and watch it. It's insane. No Matt Milano, and I thought we were doomed. Yet in obvious passing downs, they took A.J. Klein off the field. He was doing fantastic in run coverage. And put Saran Neal, who was essentially a linebacker in a corner's body that can't cover wide receivers, and stapled him to Travis Kelce. And a guy that no one outside of Western New York has ever heard of before, shut him down. The Bills designed this entire defense to defeat one team. Players you've never heard of to play individual roles to their strength. And by God, it worked. It's a legitimate defense. And guys, I'm getting goosebumps about what this means.
The American Hockey League, and just to show you how far the world has come and the American Hockey League has come, we'll have 10 female officials this year. My question is, what took so long? Is it really that much harder for a man or a woman to call a hooking penalty, a tripping penalty, to say, oh, that's roughing? No, they can skate, they played the game, and I think it's about time, and we will see that the American Hockey League may be leading. Granted, there are female officials in the NBA, and there are in the NFL. The NHL, no, not yet, but on their way. The American Hockey League is a development league, and now they're developing female officials to show that they fit right in just as well as the men.
I hope Yankee fans and Met fans and Met organization and the Yankee organization continue to watch the Major League Baseball playoffs. Why? Because all the teams that you hate are doing extremely well. Maybe they're doing something right, or maybe you should start looking into exactly what they're doing. Not just high-paid players, but team chemistry. Everything going on with the Red Sox when they took on the Yankees just to get into the playoffs was so interesting. I went through the lineup. Yankee lineup. Rizzo, Stanton, Judge, blah, 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 blah. Then you go to the Boston Red Sox. Devers, okay, all right, great. What do you see during the game? Your ace pitcher doesn't perform, and that's exactly what happens. Everything goes down the toilet from there. It seems as if the Red Sox and the Astros and all these other teams are doing something right, and the Mets and the Yankees are doing something wrong. They're paying for players, but not big money. They have great team chemistry, yet they're still playing, and we're still home. So the Yankees and Mets need to understand, don't turn off the playoffs, turn them on and find out what's working. That's Unfinished Business, being brought to you by Greg the Roofer. Kevin, thank you for the time this morning. Appreciate you as always.
Absolutely. Been great to be here.
And Pat Duffy, as always, great to see you.
Hey, do we give out the email where you can get legitimate co-hosts from now on when Bill can't be here, or how are we going to do that?
I don't know who's sending that
I
email.
just applied online.
Yeah. And we accepted you. That's how some things are these days. That is Unfinished Business. That is the Press Box. I'm Tariq Spence. We'll be back next week.